6 Coronation Street spoilers. Next week, Ollie arrested and Maggie's secret night with Brian. Another dramatic week is coming to Weatherfield, with the Driscoll family at the center of several major storylines. Ollie finds himself in serious trouble after attacking Jake, while Maggie is desperate to avoid Brian after their unexpected night together. Meanwhile, Sarah prepares to defend herself in prison. Lucy receives a secret call from her father, and Todd is forced to reveal a painful truth about Christina. Here are the 6 biggest Coronation Street spoilers for the episodes airing from Monday 24 to Friday 28th August. 1. Lucy secretly speaks to her dad, Richie. Tim and Sally are alarmed when they hear screams coming from the garden and discover Lucy pointing accusingly at Jody. Lucy is convinced that Jody has been spying on her, adding to concerns about her increasingly volatile behavior. Later, Lucy asks Tim to take her to the undertaker's because she wants to see her mom. However, when they reach the door, she suddenly panics and cannot bring herself to go inside. The situation forces Tim to confront his own feelings of guilt over Lucy's mother's death. But when he makes his confession, how will Lucy react? Sally then reveals that she has arranged counseling for Lucy. Although the teenager reluctantly agrees to attend, the session quickly becomes an outlet for her anger. Lucy makes it clear that she resents her new foster family and feels that nobody is telling her the truth. Her behavior becomes even more difficult at home. She throws a bowl of popcorn at Joni, calls the family a bunch of liars, and storms upstairs. But once she is safely away from everyone else, Lucy receives a secret phone call from her father, Richie. Richie orders her to stick to their version of events, suggesting that father and daughter may be hiding something important. Sally later admits to Tim that she is beginning to question whether she can cope with Lucy's behavior. When social worker Ruth visits and carefully asks Lucy whether she is happy with her foster family, Lucy is left facing an important decision about her future. 2. Celeste's connection to Bernie is revealed. Todd is shocked when Celeste suddenly turns up. As he sees her out, she spots Bernie across the street and immediately rushes over. However, Bernie is clearly not interested in seeing her and quickly dismisses her. Todd is stunned when Celeste reveals the truth. She is the twin sister of Bernie's mother. Later, Todd tells Bernie that her aunt is dying and suggests that the situation could give them an opportunity to put the past behind them and reconnect. Todd also gives Celeste some advice. He tells her to stop chasing Bernie and instead make the most of whatever time she has left. When Todd mentions that he is going to Manchester Pride at the weekend, Celeste surprises him by saying that she plans to come along too. Todd later tells Bernie that Celeste's health has deteriorated, but Bernie remains surprisingly unmoved. She eventually opens up to Deb about the bitter history between her mother and Celeste, explaining more about the family conflict that caused their long-standing separation. 3. Sarah prepares a weapon in prison. Sarah's fears for her son Harry grow even more intense next week. Bethany speaks to Sarah over the phone and reassures her that Harry is doing well, but Sarah's relief disappears when Casey enters her cell and finds her crying. Casey asks whether Harry is the reason for her distress. Sarah is horrified when she realizes that Casey knows her son's name. Meanwhile, Bethany makes another worrying discovery. While sorting through the washing, she finds blood on one of Kit's shirts and begins questioning exactly what he has been involved in. Back in prison, Sarah looks at a photograph of Harry, only to discover that his face has been deliberately scrubbed out. Casey then tells Sarah that several pool balls have disappeared from the prison recreation room. The danger increases when Casey shows Sarah photographs of Harry at the home of his new friend. Desperate to protect her son, Sarah contacts Adam. Adam confirms that Harry is staying at Lottie's house and agrees to collect him immediately. He also questions Lottie about the photographs, raising the possibility that she may somehow be connected to Casey. Sarah then takes matters into her own hands. She places the missing pool balls inside a sock, creating a makeshift weapon. When she hears voices outside her cell, she immediately grabs it and prepares for whatever is coming. At the same time, Kit decides to confront Casey's son in an attempt to make the family leave Sarah and Harry alone. He spots Brandon in the precinct and gives chase, But Bernie intervenes and warns Kit that he needs to start protecting himself. Back in prison, Sarah approaches Casey's cell while clutching her makeshift weapon. Has Sarah finally decided that she must fight back? 4. Maggie and Brian spend the night together. Ben and Ollie are arguing when they suddenly notice something happening on the staircase. Their argument comes to an abrupt end when a disheveled Brian appears, followed by Maggie. The revelation leaves everyone stunned. It soon becomes clear that Maggie and Brian have spent the night together. Later, Brian asks Eva for advice about how to win Maggie over. She tries to help him, but Maggie is far from impressed with how their evening went. Unaware that Brian is preparing to make another romantic gesture, Maggie tells Eva that the date was disappointing and insists that she has no desire to repeat the experience. When Maggie later goes to the cabin to apologize, she gets an opportunity to repair their relationship. But things remain awkward, particularly when Glenda catches Maggie lurking in the hallway. Maggie finally admits that she is deliberately avoiding Brian. Whether their unexpected night together will lead to something more remains to be seen. 5. Ollie is arrested after attacking Jake. Ollie is delighted when he learns that an influencer wants to visit Speedthal and review the restaurant. But Ben soon turns the situation into a competition by announcing plans for a craft beer event at the Rovers. The influencer later arrives at the pub and samples the beers. But the rivalry between Ben and Ollie is clearly far from over. Then Christina confides in Glenda that she has barely heard from George and fears that their relationship may have ended. Her mood gets worse when she becomes tipsy and falls over in the ginnel. Jake records the incident before pouring his water bottle over her. Ollie is furious and immediately chases after Jake. Glenda and Christina are horrified when they discover Ollie pinning the teenager to the ground. Christina points out that Jake only threw water over her. Ollie suddenly realizes how far he has gone and releases him. Jake later tells Gary and Maria that he had actually been on his way to call for Joseph when Ollie attacked him. Gary urges Jake to tell the police exactly what happened. Back at the Rovers, Christina and Glenda reassure Ollie that he was only trying to protect Christina. But their conversation is interrupted when PC Jess Haywood arrives and arrests Ollie on suspicion of assault. Jess warns him that the offense could potentially lead to a prison sentence. Ben later tells Gary that Ollie could end up behind bars. Jake overhears the conversation and is clearly troubled by what has happened. Will guilt finally persuade Jake to tell the truth and help Ollie? 6. Todd reveals the truth about Christina. With George due back from Somerset, a nervous Christina desperately tries to make the house look perfect. Meanwhile, Todd arrives at the funeral parlor for work and discovers that George is already there. George confronts Todd about attempting to drown his problems in alcohol. Under pressure, Todd finally reveals what really happened involving Christina and her drunken incident in the ginnel.